My name is Fraser.
My name is Mark.
And we are the hosts of the geekiest show alive. To the outside world, we're ordinary geeks.
But in the Fab International Studios, we talk comics and find other geeks just like us. This is Geek of the Week.
Welcome back to the show, guys. So, we've added a little theme for trade-off here.
Oh, is that what it is?
There you go, yeah. I felt like it was missing something, so we got a bit of this.
You're going to play it again?
Yeah, it's going to keep going.
No, oh, really?
No.
No, don't.
It just goes to the rest of the time.
Let me talk about the song. Welcome back to Geek of the Week.
Mate, you've interrupted the flow now. You should have told me you were talking about the song. You've already talked 20 minutes about the song.
I'm just saying, welcome back to the most independent... What's wrong with you?
I've got to do the whole...
Welcome back to the most listened to independent online radio station in Europe at Fab Radio International. You know, the radio station we're on, Fraser.
I know, but it's fine. I'm going to do the good, the bad, the ugly.
You're going to do it again?
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Well, you know, you're supposed to do your job. You're supposed to, like, be a radio host.
Right, you interrupted me now.
Did you just shush me?
Yes. It's now time for trade-off.
It is.
That's why we have this feed.
Right.
This week's trade-off, I gave Mark Kraven's Last Hunt. And Mark's going to talk about his feelings on Kraven's Last Hunt.
To be fair, that did work well. No! Switch it off now. Switch it off. That did work well until you ruined it by playing it again. It is trade-off, hello. So, Kraven's Last Hunt. Funnily enough, Fraser gave me a Spider-Man book. And I'd had heard of it, and it was something I had always wanted to read, I'll be honest.
There we go.
And it's... How old is it? About 20 years old now?
Yeah.
It's quite an old one. And the art felt very, very classic to me.
Yeah.
Kind of like it suited the time, and it's aged well as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's great artwork. And,
it's one of them as well, because it's hard when you read a classic Spider-Man story. Sometimes you're like, oh my goodness, it feels like I'm in the 60s, and it's like kind of hard to read. I've had the same with like X-Men, and older stories have been like, the ones that are the greats, like the Days of Future Past, like these are great, but like my eyes are so used to like current comic book, but like you say, it still keeps with the times, and I think that's because it's in that middle ground. It's not quite close to the beginning, but it's a nice little happy medium.
And it very much adds to the story with the dark art. It's really good, and the subject matter's pretty dark, isn't it?
Yeah.
Again, for the time period, it was very adult themes and very adult imagery. You know, burying Spider-Man and breaking out of a grave.
See, this is why I wanted to give it to you as well, because you always give me lark about being, you read kids' books and stuff like that.
I do give you stick, yeah.
Kraven's Last Hunt is not a kid's book.
It's really not. It really isn't. I thought it was incredible. I loved it. And
fair play to him. For the longest time, that was Kraven's Last Hunt. Like, they didn't really talk about Kraven afterwards,
which I think is important.
Which was really cool.
This is comics. It was inevitable he was going to come back in some way, shape or form, but I think the story deserved that level of respect.
If you want something pretty funny, in the Ultimate Universe, he's Australian.
No, that makes sense.
And a reality star.
Well, that makes sense.
But it's in a less dark turn.
Yeah, that does seem less dark.
This story is incredible for me, and just sort of that, again, it's been done a couple of times now, but seeing how someone else would take on that spider power or take on that spider sort of like symbol, and it's scary that he just keeps going spider, and like...
Yeah. I was going to say that we recently read Superior Spider-Man, and there's parallels with that. A bad guy gets the responsibility of being a hero and what they do with it. Kraven was quite a lot like Frank Castle in a way, wasn't he? He motivated by good, but a murderer, essentially.
Yeah, exactly, and it just... again, that's why I feel like it was kind of fitting that we had Superior last week, and now we've got this, because it is that. It's the same ideology, really. Oh my goodness, words are so hard with this. It's cold.
Poor Fraser.
Ideology of sort of like, what happens if someone else took the reign, and why it's so important to have that Peter Parker side of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And how the two balance each other out.
We're very spoilt these days with bad guys whose motivation you can completely understand, like Kingpin in the Daredevil series on the TV. My goodness, it's almost like he's the good guy a lot of the time, and then you see him do something savagely murderous and go, oh yeah, he's the bad guy. And
car door on someone's head.
At the time that Kraven's Last Hunt was written, there was a lot more of the cackling bad guy who's a bad guy for bad guy's sake, who's got a cool outfit.
Yeah. Well, I think that was sort of the time they started becoming more.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at.
At least in comics, anyway.
That's what I'm getting at, is that Kraven, you can absolutely understand it. Everyone has had an obsession. Yeah. Everyone has had something that they can't beat, they can't do, they can't get sorted. They want it,
past,
but they can't get past. But they want it so bad, and they work so hard. And there's, again, if you can get empathy for the bad guy, even though you clearly know that it's the bad guy, that's the kind of emotional roller coaster that I want to be on, because you feel bad for agreeing with the bad guy on certain things. And there's no such thing as a truly evil person. Yeah. Everyone has their reasons. A lot of the time, I think it's fair to say everyone thinks they're the good guy.
Well, that's the thing, innit? I can't remember who said it. I'm stealing this quote from somewhere, but everyone's the hero of their own story.
Yeah.
And maybe if this was told in Kraven's perspective, it'd be, a different story. But
that could be an interesting take.
I do like that sort of balance, because it's like, he's got his reasons and stuff like that, and you can he is the hero of his own story, but it's important to show that no, he's still a bad guy. That like his method, the way he's going about it is wrong.
He's a murderer. It's sort of that is.
It's like Killmonger in the recent Black Panther. Like, he's got the right ideas, he's just doing it wrong. Like. Yeah.
He's a murderer. You, regardless of whether or not you can understand his motivation, regardless of whether or not you can understand anything else about him, he has murdered people. He murdered Spider-Man, or at least he attempted murder. Yeah, and he is unequivocally a bad guy, but that it's never that simple. And comic books prior to this tended to be along the lines of and evil for evil's sake, whereas this is a great comic book.
A lot of it is sort of like, oh, this thing has enhanced my aggressive abilities, or like it's making me about and I think it was very fitting that it was the black suit that it was all done in.
That was definitely a metaphor.
Exactly. And there's so much. If you're really interested in this, definitely check it out. And if you have read it, there's this amazing thing. It used to be called this YouTube channel. What was he called? It was like
Dear.
Something. Oh, right. Just Google Behind the Panels.
Behind the Panels. I've read
something Behind the Panels. Check him out, because his Kraven the Last Hunt is incredible. Like the detail he goes into it. Again, like some of the stuff we said, like the metaphors with the suit, and it's,
for me, it's an absolute classic that I hadn't read, and it lived up to the hype. And you can't ask for more than that. So thank you, Fraser. That was a great book.
I'm glad you liked it. Well, that's
next week. You've got Descender by Jeff Lemire, which is it's probably my favourite comic book of the last 5 years. No. So I hope you like it.
No pressure. All right. So listen to Geek of the Week. Be sure to tune in next week. Same geek time, same geek channel.
And if you want to follow us on social media, it's at GOTW Radio on Twitter. Search for Geek of the Week Radio Show on Facebook. And to listen again, it's www.mixcloud.com/Geek of the Week Radio Show.